Hi, this is Brian Montopoli at CBS News in New York, and I am here with Ralph Nader, the longtime consumer advocate, former presidential candidate, and author of Getting Steamed to Overcome Corporatism. Mr. Nader, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, Brian.
So my first question for you, we've got another presidential election coming up. Mitt Romney, Barack Obama, does it matter who wins?
It matters in terms of social services, but the foreign and military policy abroad is pretty similar as it was between Obama and George W. Bush. We're not trying to become a humanitarian superpower, which is much better for our economy and much better for our security. Pretty similar there. I think they are pretty similar in reality toward Wall Street and corporate power, but they're different in terms of social services. I think Obama is more protective of Social Security and Medicare than Mitt Romney would be.
So you would prefer Barack Obama, but on a lot of issues you see basically the same candidate.
Far too little difference. We deserve more choices in this country.
Well, and on that front, you are backing former Salt Lake City Mayor Rocky Anderson in this presidential race. First question I got to ask, as a former presidential candidate, why back someone else? Why not get into the race yourself? And then why Rocky Anderson?
Well, I've done it enough times, as you know, and I think Rocky Anderson, having been elected in Salt Lake City twice as mayor, very, very progressive record, and before that he was a constitutional lawyer, a civil rights lawyer. I think he is a candidate of conscience for voters of conscience on the ballot. It's good to have someone on the ballot who focuses on many redirections that most people in this country would want, and who doesn't have marbles in his mouth. And people need, as voters, to have more choice than the increasingly corporate indentured Democrat and Republican parties.
Now, how does he get traction in this election? I mean, the media is focused on the two major candidates. All of the money, obviously, is with the two major candidates. You've had experience with this. How does a third-party candidate get traction?
Well, he's got to beg the mass media for some attention. It would be good to have him get on some of the debates, some of the morning talk shows on Sunday. I mean, the tediousness and repetition of these politicians ought to provoke the mainstream reporters and editors into a little more excitement. The second is he's going around the country getting on state ballot lines. He just got on Oregon's state ballot line in the Progressive Party. And the third is he's got a good message. If you look at what he's said and what he's done on his website, voterocky.org, you'll see that he deals with raising the federal minimum wage so it's equal in purchasing power to 1968 minimum wage. That's not very radical, but it will put tens of billions of dollars in the hard-pressed budgets of about 30 million workers in this country who are between the $7.25 federal minimum to the $10 that he is advancing. And he's also very good in cracking down on corporate crime. He's very meticulous and specific in adhering to the Constitution when it comes to not having wars of aggression undeclared by Congress, by the presidency abroad. And he's very keen, as he was in the mayoralty, of paying attention to the cities in this country and of advancing the kind of public works program that will create all kinds of jobs to repair America, its schools, its public transit, its community health clinics, its underground infrastructure, good paying jobs that stay at home and are not exportable to China.
Now, the Supreme Court in recent years has really moved towards allowing more money to be involved in politics. There doesn't seem to be a lot of enthusiasm on Capitol Hill to change the status quo. What, if anything, can be done to get some of these, millions and billions of dollars out of the system?
Well, Rocky Anderson and I have a similar platform, which is you have full public financing of public campaigns based on well-promoted checkoffs on your 1040 tax return up to, say, $300. You don't have to pay anything, but if you want to, you can. And then a certain amount of free time on radio and TV, which of course costs candidates a lot of money, as a condition of the license. After all, the people who own the public airwaves, they're the landlords, and the radio and TV stations have a free license to be the tenants, so they give up some free time for the benefit of our democracy and a cleaner electoral system. He is very critical, Rocky Anderson, of, as many of us are, of the Citizens United case, the Supreme Court that basically opened up the floodgates for unlimited expenditures for and against candidates by corporations. And so I think on his website, voterocky.org, and if you look at my old website, which is still on, to try to contrast with the insipid campaigns of the two major parties, it's votenader.org. That is an old 2008 website, but it has a whole series of redirections in our country that I think, if poll tested, would be supported by a majority of the American people, including, by the way, a full Medicare for all, free choice of doctor and hospital, everybody in, nobody out. That's a majoritarian position, not only by doctors and nurses in this country, but also the American people.
I think some folks might consider you maybe the father of the Occupy movement, or at least certainly a major influence on the Occupy movement. What do you think of that movement? Has it been effective, and can it be effective going forward? I mean, we're still in the same situation we've been in a long time, two major parties. People aren't talking about it as much anymore. Has it made a difference?
Well, I think in its fall emergence, last fall, it has made a distinct difference. It's put on the national agenda the inequality between the top 1% of wealth and power and the 99% of the rest of the American people. And now people are talking about this inequality, where the head of Walmart pays himself with a rubber stamp board of directors $11,000 an hour plus benefits, and over 1 million Walmart workers are making under $10 an hour, often without much benefits, $7.25, $8, $9 an hour. I mean, that's just insupportable. And I think the American people resonated with the Occupy effort. And I think now in the spring, they're moving out now into helping prevent foreclosures of homeowners and helping people in many other areas in the cities, coast to coast, north, south, west, east. Actually, as we speak, there are dozens of marches and demonstrations, sit-ins. I think we'll see an acceleration in the next few weeks. But my proposal to Occupy is to grab hold of this $10 federal minimum wage, catching up with 1968, comes in at over 70% polling. It has even the support of Rick Santorum, and until a couple of weeks ago, with the flip-flop of Mitt Romney, not to mention the leading Democrats.
I'm curious how much of the country agrees with you? I mean, how much of the country do you think espouses the things that you believe? And is there an influence maybe on the part of the media that's sort of keeping people from going in your direction? I've read some things that you've written that have basically suggested the media is covering the wrong things. I mean, do you think people agree with you? How many people? And then are some people, do they not agree with you because they're sort of not getting the information that they need?
Well, I think if you took the 15 major directions in our country, living wage, universal health insurance, cracking down on corporate crime, reversing an aggressive war, which the majority of the people now are against in Afghanistan, cutting the bloated military budget that Ron Paul and Barney Frank have combined to try to do something about in the Pentagon, and many other changes. Changing the fine print of all those consumer contracts that strip people of their rights and access to court, and many other things. If you polled them, and you took my position and compared it with the Democrat and Republican nominees, I think I would be president. The polls really do support it. I've been in 50 states. In every one of the 3 presidential candidacies, I know what people think, and it doesn't matter what label they put on them. They want safe medicines. They want cars that are not defective. They want to have their children and themselves breathe clean air and drink clean water. They want a fair shake in the marketplace. They don't like how corporate criminals get off without being prosecuted and convicted and put in jail. There's a sense of elementary fairness that transcends the various labels people put on themselves politically. And that's what we're appealing to. But the mass media doesn't cover what we do very much anymore. When it did years ago, a lot of good things happened in this country: auto safety, health safety, environmental air and water pollution controls back in the 60s and 70s. But the corporate advertisers and the corporatization of the mass media simply doesn't allow a lot of citizen groups to have the effective voice that their experience and record of accuracy for this country entitle them to have.
You're 78 years old. You, from what I can tell, are just as fired up as you were when Unsafe at Any Speed came out in the 1960s. Any thoughts of retirement? I mean, where does Ralph Nader go from here?
No, I think there's a lot more work to do, and I believe in this old adage, Brian, the only real aging is the erosion of one's ideals. So you can be old at your age if you don't have ideals, and people can be at a much larger age and become very, very vigorous year after year, because as Senator Daniel Webster said many, many years ago, when he was senator from Massachusetts, the great work of human beings on earth is justice. And that's what we should all strive for, no matter how we specialize in life.
Ralph Nader, thank you so much for joining us here on CBS News.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.
And I hope you all read the book, Getting Steam to Overcome Corporatism.
All right, thank you very much.